Hi, Madhu. Thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate your time and your willingness to share your story with our community. Why don't you say hi to everybody and just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, and just your background.
Yep. Hi to everyone in the International Dentist Central community. I'm very happy to communicate this today through this interview. I have been following International Dentist Central for a very long time, and ever since I started this journey. And this place has always been a place where I could gain a lot of information. And that's why I'm here today to give back to the community. Uh, so to talk about myself, I am a periodontist from India. I graduated my Bachelor of Dental Surgery in 2010, and I graduated from my Master of Dental Surgery in Periodontics in 2014. That is after my 3-year residency program in India. After that, I gained experience as a senior lecturer, a teaching experience, and I also was a consultant periodontist practicing periodontics, as well as had a general dentistry practice. Then around 1.5 years back, in 2014, I moved to the United States. I got married and I moved to the United States, and I knew that to get into dental practice, I had to do my DDS. So what I did was immediately I got into working on my exams, that is my NBT Part 1 and Part 2 and TOEFL. So in a span of 3 to 4 months, I had finished it. And
both tests?
Yep.
You finished
Yes.
both Part 1 and Part 2 in a span
Yes.
of 3 months?
Yep.
Wait.
Yes,
How did you do this?
because I was in touch with. For me, Part 2 was easier because I was in touch, because I had given my master's exam, and I was constantly in touch. So I felt for me Part 2 was easier than Part 1. So for Part 1, I took more time than Part.
But
Part
that's still like 3 to 4 months, even for Part 1, is less than what most people do. I don't know, did basic sciences always come easy for you? What was your GPA in school? Or
Yeah, my GPA was 4.
Oh, okay. It did come easy for you.
So yeah, I was for me Part 2 was easier, and then I knew TOEFL for the first cycle. My score was 100. And all I had in my mind was I wanted to meet the deadlines. By the time I came and I finished all this, my only aim was to apply immediately as soon as possible. But I didn't know that time that was late.
So when you're talking right now, that is 2015, right?
Yes.
So you came 2015, what month?
I came in April.
April.
So by the time I just settled in, and I gave my Part 1, I think in around June end. And Part 2 I gave it in August starting. So, and TOEFL I gave immediately after my Part 2. So I wanted to meet the deadline. I wanted to apply as soon as possible. But by the time I sent my application, it was already October starting, because the personal statement took time. The application, everything putting together took time. I tried to finish it as soon as possible. But even then it was like somehow it only October starting I was sending in. And
where did you apply? How many schools?
I applied to Rutgers, because that was my main this thing. I've always wanted East Coast, so I applied to Rutgers. I applied to Boston, and then I applied to Colorado. So but I didn't know that I didn't know the term rolling admissions then. I was
Just in case somebody that's watching this doesn't know, can you quickly explain what rolling admissions is?
Yes, rolling admissions means you're as soon as soon as your application gets received, they will start reviewing it, and they send out interview calls before the deadline. So that is
Right.
one thing that I didn't know that time. So
Yes.
I applied, and then I also applied to Colorado. So
Uh-huh.
I got the invitation for Colorado
Oh,
for
okay.
that cycle.
Uh-huh.
So
But it didn't work out.
no, I was waitlisted. I was
Okay.
waitlisted for Colorado, and
Uh-huh.
then this I knew this. So what happens is Colorado. It starts its procedure. I mean, it starts its application process early.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally for this cycle
Or late,
or
really.
late.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was actually competing for this cycle.
Right, right. You would have started school this year.
Yep.
No, like yeah, like
Yeah.
you would be in school right
Yep.
now as a
As
student.
a student, the Colorado's cycle starts in January.
Right, right. And then
Uh,
school starts like in May, June, something.
yep.
So it's a short.
No, no. Colorado starts in January. University of Pennsylvania starts in January. Many schools starts January.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
But they interview. Oh, so
Uh,
you would be starting now, like
yes,
in a month.
yes. That's right.
Gotcha,
Yes,
gotcha,
that's
gotcha.
right. So they have their process earlier when compared to the other schools, which also start the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So then I was all ready for the coming up cycle. I knew how important everything was because of my exposure to the previous cycle. Now I was like all set, all ready.
How did you feel
Uh,
when nothing worked out? I mean, because you have like a really strong background and you really rushed. You
yep,
know, you did your best to not
yep,
waste a year. How
yep.
did you feel when nothing worked out?
I was hopeful, but I felt slightly down. But I knew that I came to realize that applying late like that actually doesn't work. And when I saw that I got interview from Colorado, I got the hope back. Like I knew that there was that my application was okay. So at
Mm,
least I knew that I was in the right path. To get an interview call, I understood that that boosted my confidence, and
mm-hmm,
it was a great experience by itself because I attended the interview and bench exam. It made me more experienced for the upcoming interviews. So that was a great experience for me. So after that, immediately I started off applying. I applied as soon as possible, as when the application cycle started.
mm-hmm.
April, I was done. I improved my TOEFL score.
Wow.
Yes, I improved my TOEFL score.
What did you get at the end?
I got 113.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so then I also got my letters of recommendation. I got it from the dentist who was my mentor and whom I shadowed for the past 1 year. I also took from him, and I sent the application, and immediately I got the response from Indiana. It started from Indiana.
Mm,
I Then I went to University of Pennsylvania for interview, and it luckily worked out for me. I was so happy. It was my dream school. So I got into University of Pennsylvania, and after that I got in fact, I was this cycle. I wanted to make sure that some good things happened, so I applied to maximum schools as
yeah.
possible. And I luckily I got interview call from almost most of the schools.
Mm.
So I was very happy to see that I had got the response from all the schools.
Congratulations. And so he wrote you a recommendation letter. Who else wrote you recommendation letters? Your
uh,
dean and
my dean and my I in my postgraduate program, my guide, who was the who used to guide me. She was my postgraduate guide. so she also wrote a recommendation letter for me.
Okay, that's a solid
Yeah.
mix. Yeah.
Yep.
Regarding your personal statement and your application
Yep.
writings,
Yep. Yep.
how did you approach that? And like, did you do anything different second year from the first year?
Um, Actually, my personal statement from the first year to the second year, I hadn't modified that much. It was just one or two sentences which I had changed to add about my how I went about my US experience. What just one line about that, but it was more or less the same thing, because it was like a story, like how slowly I transformed from very soft-spoken girl to how I became a dentist, and then how I became a periodontist, and how things inspired me. So it was more of that. So I didn't change much, but it was literally quite same.
Did you get any help with it, or did you do it yourself?
I did first. I made a draft of it, and then I showed it to 2 3 people who were experienced in this regard. One of it was my spouse. He also had a experience with this, so I showed him, and then I showed to 2 other people who had gotten into programs here. They were my friends from previously, so I showed them also. So that, and then I drafted it, I made it polished. So I worked on it like for like literally like 20 days to 30 days. I worked on it. So
It takes so many edits, doesn't it?
yep. So I worked on a lot on it, and then I was happy with it. That's when I sent it. So
Very nice, very nice.
yep.
My God. So, okay, for anybody that hasn't written their personal statement or anything like that, like first time writing it,
Yep.
any advice you would like to give them?
I would definitely say you should get advice from other people, from experienced people, and not just send it. That is a definite no. You should definitely take help from the experienced. That is my strong suggestion, because personal statement is something which is going to show who you are, and that is what the admissions committee want. And also I would suggest that besides personal statement, also to concentrate on the supplemental answers as well, because some schools even see that first. I just saw in a in an interview somewhere on YouTube that they read that also besides your personal statement. So I would suggest to work on that as well as your personal statement, because both of them is going to show who you are as a personality.
Right.
And it should be strong. That is a very important thing. So I would definitely suggest to get professional help if possible, and also multiple edits and multiple reviews from experienced.
Totally agree. Okay, so you did that, and you applied. You went to schools that had bench tests too. I
Yep.
mean, you're not going to one, but you did. How
Yep.
did you prepare for that?
I knew that bench test is very competitive, so I was all prepared. I mean, I was preparing from the start. I bought a
You did?
yeah. I
Like, what
mean,
do you mean by the start?
from January of last year.
Really?
Yep.
That was like, then you were practicing for the bench test while you were preparing your applications too.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Because my friends had told me the importance. They have gone through the process, and I could see it myself, that through all the forums and discussions, that and I also saw that it was asked in many places. Like, there are only few schools which don't have a bench test. More or less every other school has a bench test. So I bought a home test, home bench test. I collected all the materials for it, like the compressor, like the turbine unit, like all the instruments, and I started practicing at home. So that's how I also used to practice, and I used to show it to my mentor, whom I shadowed. So I used to get feedback from him, and I kept working on it. So
Interesting, because you were a periodontist, and
yep,
periodontists have stable hands. It's very, you know,
yep,
they do. And so I'm just going to assume that from the average pool of applicants, your starting point was above average from, you know, from the general
yep.
starting pool of everybody. How long did it take you to kind of get a hang of bench test related things? Like until it took you to like, okay, I think I've improved. When you first saw like your leap and you were kind of like, all right, maybe I can do this kind of thing. How long did that take you?
When you start preparing, like the ideal preparations to get there, at least you will take a month or so, and after that you have to keep practicing, to, because it is very competitive and they want to see ideal preparations. So I would say that I would always suggest that never start, wait till your interview call. That is a bad thing to do.
I agree.
Because yes, because you will have to buy all the instruments, finish the setup, then you have to start practicing. By that time
So long.
it takes so long.
Yeah.
So you'll be wasting your time, and to get an interview call itself is so difficult, and if you're gonna wait for the interview call to practice for bench test, that is going to be difficult. So you 3 months is a good time to practice, I feel. Like it's adequate,
Uh-huh.
and it'll not be like a risk. If you
And you had that dentist, which is more suited to give you advice than most other general practitioners, or, you know, most
Yep.
other people would have been, which
Yep.
is actually something to note here, because oftentimes he teaches, right? I mean, he doesn't teach ideal preparations, but he's somebody that's in the teaching realm
Yep.
of things. And when you're there,
Yep.
you
Yep.
don't ideals, like you just do not forget ideals. That's because it
Yep.
carries a lot of weight still.
That's
But
true.
for most dentists that's been practicing for a while, I would
Yep.
caution getting too much
Yep.
advice from them.
Yep.
They've lost touch. Clinically acceptable work is so easy, quite
That's
frankly.
true.
It
That's
is
true. That's very true.
so very easy.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
forget what it was like 10 years ago when you were in
Yep.
dental school, when
Yep.
you were grilled on everything.
Yes, that's true.
Just a note of
Yes,
caution.
that's very true.
And, um,
Yes, definitely.
so wow, so you did that from January, and when was your
Mhm.
first bench test? I mean, you did it in 2000, like
Um,
in call for the first round of Colorado, but after that.
yes, that is in 2016 April. That
Mm-hmm.
is that I
Indiana.
went. Colorado was the first bench test that happened in April 2016. So
Oh, that's why you practiced. It makes sense. I was like, why did you practice? So you had a bench test in
yeah,
Colorado.
yep, that's right.
I got
So
it. I was like, wow.
April, so April 2016 was the bench. So from I was like from January I was practicing. So
Mm-hmm.
yes.
How many, like, because the people like, how many hours did you practice? Did you practice daily? Like, what did it look like, your practice?
Yeah, I used to practice daily, but like not for many hours, like 2 hours maximum,
Just spread
not
out.
more than that. Yeah, it's spread out,
So, like, how
not
many
more
preps
than
did you
that.
do a day?
1 or 2.
One or two preps.
Oh, yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, great. And
Yeah.
so when you went to Colorado, that was your first. And did you like keep going like until, I don't know, like with your bench test prep? Like, did you ever like put it down, or were you like,
Uh,
go?
there are I tried to be consistent, but sometimes you will automatically get a break. But I tried to be consistent as much as possible. After, I mean, I used to practice, and for me, it happened immediately. I got after Colorado interview, then after Indiana and Penn, all happened immediately, like back to back. So, and the results came out also. So for me, luckily, I had I was done with that. So I
Right.
actually start immediately. While I was waiting for the results, I started practicing because I had got call from Buffalo and Michigan. But by
Oh,
then the results came, and I didn't. I was fortunate enough to decline those interviews, so
mm,
I immediately stopped it.
so that was it.
Yes.
I'm done.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So how would you, I don't know how you would answer this, but there are people that are considering like, oh, I need to practice, or like I need to get ready for the bench test. I don't know what I should do. Should I do it by myself? We have a course. Other people have live courses. Like there are many options that people can choose from.
Okay.
What are some things that you think will help people decide on like the best route for them?
For the bench exam, I would say that if you're having like if you have a practice setup at home, and if you want to keep doing it like over the time, then I would say like IDC is ideal, because you have
By the way, I didn't ask this question for you to give us a plug. It was a
no, no, no.
genuine.
No, I'm a person who has been following the workshop Wednesdays like continuously. It was very helpful for me, and it was like I gained a lot of information from the workshop Wednesdays, because I had been religiously watching all the workshops.
You're very, what do you say? You're very consistent. It seems like you're very consistently working very hard, which is great. I'm actually very impressed that you didn't get complacent, like,
Yes.
like I don't know if this will work, like whatever.
Yeah. Because I was hopeful and I wanted to get in. So I was consistently watching the workshop Wednesdays. I was trying to gain information how much ever possible, because there were a lot of voids of some things which I felt I would have, if I had known it before, I would have done things like earlier or better or something like that. So such information, I always am in the lookout, and this was a great way of gaining information for me. So for me, I would suggest that if you're at home, if you're practicing, and if you this IDC is a great way to to learn from home, because if you can't, if you're for me, I'm in the East Coast, so if you want to go to the West Coast and practice or anything, this is definitely a better choice. Or also you can also go to Dugans also if needed, if you're on the West Coast, and if you can spend, and if you can go there, that's also a good option.
In terms of like, did you feel like, were you surprised to know what high quality work you had to produce, or were you like expecting it?
Although I expected, it was something more than what I expected, I would say that. I did expect that, but it was more than that. So I would definitely say that practice is the only thing. We should not be, if you are very keen on getting in, you should keep practicing. Bench test is very important. Thinking that you can apply only to schools which don't have bench test is something that I would not suggest.
Not a very good idea.
No, no. There are like 2, 3 schools, but you think that you will get only into those 2, 3 schools is something that is a wrong thing. I would definitely
Dangerous.
say that. Yep, that's a danger. That's a risk.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is very dangerous.
yeah.
Okay. In terms of interviewing, how did you prepare for that?
For me, workshop Wednesdays was very helpful. I followed your guide for the international dentist. I read everything in
Oh, the book.
the book. Yes,
Ah, sweet.
I followed all the interview, all
Nice.
that, and then I practiced with my spouse because he was experienced in that regard. So I
Mhm.
practiced with him, and I also used to have a lot of self practice sessions. So that's how I kept practicing a lot for interviews, so that
What do you mean self-practice sessions? What did you do
I'd
there?
see the mirror and
Ah, you looked
practice.
into the mirror and practice. That's really strong. Like that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Um, that's great. You actually like did what we said to do.
Yep.
You know how rare that is?
I just felt it was a good method. And I would say that going for Colorado interview, that experience also adds to your practice. So
Yes.
that everything added, and it worked out. I would say, yeah.
Mhm. Totally agree. If you had to do this again, and I don't know, you can set everything in your terms, would you change anything?
One thing is for sure, I would have applied earlier in the previous cycle, but that was the maximum I could do, because as soon as
Right.
I came, I finished it. I applied, but still it was late. So I would suggest that you always be ready for the March time to
Mm-hmm.
apply. If you are late, then do not get depressed that you didn't get a call, because it was not really in your hands. You should apply in March. That is the one biggest suggestion. Second is definitely practice for bench test. You should definitely be ready for bench tests, and if we are not ready and if we miss out the chance, then it was totally in your hands. So you shouldn't miss that opportunity to master yourself in bench exams.
Okay, let's rewind this then. You said have everything ready by March, apply in March.
Yep.
When should people start putting together their applications?
I would say that you should in February get things ready. If your personal statement is not ready, then start by January. Also, it's not at all a wrong thing to start in January. Start off the personal statement stuff. Start writing your personal statement. And before all this, you have the exams. So
Yeah.
if you haven't given part two, finish off part two. And TOEFL, if you have got less than 100, I would strongly suggest to get more than 100. And
Mm-hmm.
some schools even have specifications, like for individual section of TOEFL they
Oh,
have a
right.
minimum requirement. So
Mm-hmm.
if that particular school is your aim or anything, there is no leeway to just, okay, I'll get little lesser. You should definitely get
Mm-hmm.
more than that. Try your level best. A TOEFL you can give multiple times also, so you should
Right.
get more than the requirement. A good
Uh-huh.
TOEFL score is a good thing.
Right.
And finish off your exams and be ready by that time. And letters of recommendation, that some for some people it might get late, because the uploading part and all that, it is
Yeah.
done by the other person. So
Right.
you can even if you tell things in advance to the person, they will definitely be able to do it on time for you. So you can tell that in advance to get
That's
things.
a really good idea, actually. Just let them know, like,
Yep.
look, I'm going to ask for a letter.
Yep.
I'm going to ask you to send it in March.
Yep.
Be ready, kind of thing.
Yep. Yep.
That's a great
So
idea.
that's something that I would strongly suggest. So keep things ready and then send it off in March. For me, I sent it by April, but even that is, I feel, is a good. By April
Yeah.
start, I was done. So
Done
that's,
applying everywhere.
yep, yep,
Yeah, that's not, that's definitely not late.
yep.
Yeah, that's still pretty early. So that's good. You did a fantastic job the second round. Do you have anything you want to say to somebody that has not been through this process yet?
I would say keep reading stuff and try to improve your knowledge of what you are actually getting into, be ready for it mentally. It needs a lot of commitment from your side, by all regards. Like, it'll take time, it'll cost you money. You will have, if you get interview calls again, you'll have to go to all those places and be ready for everything. You just can't underestimate how things are. We can't just think that we will get a call, we will make it in. It is good thing to be positive, but be prepared and be positive. That will definitely help. Preparation is the key, actually. If we are prepared, then definitely things will work out. That's something that I would strongly suggest.
Absolutely and completely agree. Wow. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
You did fantastic. And now you're starting your program very, very soon. So you're going to get
Yes.
very busy.
Yes.
But wish you the best in your
Thank you so
career, for sure. And yeah, I really appreciate your time and sharing your story with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. And it was my pleasure to share my story with the community. If this helps some people, I would be very happy. And if this gives information in time for some people, then I would be even more happy. I wish
If it just
all
helps
of
one
them.
person, it was worth it.
Yes, yes. So
Yeah,
I wish all of them a
absolutely.
great journey for dentistry in the United States. To all of them, I wish them good luck.
Thank you so much.
Yes.